some visuals, but they are not crucial. The main idea of what I'm going to tell you about is to give you some examples. Give you examples of potential targets, give you examples of some campaigns that are happening abroad. And I'm telling this story from the perspective of Who Profits, which is an information support center. So I'll start with that. We have a website, whoprofits.org. You can go online and just check it out. And here it is. And one of the ideas of the website is to help you answer some basic questions like which corporations around me, around my community, are involved in some direct manner in the occupation, so they make good first targets. I can show you how to do that in a few slides, but the first slide I chose is really an old slide that I showed 2 years ago. And I showed it 2 years ago, it was just a list of successes of the movement. So that's another thing that I wanted to start with. The BDS movement is actually a very successful movement. And this is something that really attracts people. People want to belong to a successful movement, especially around Palestine. You know, we've been stuck for so many years. So if we have victories, we have to celebrate them, we have to claim them. We're starting from the end. We need more victories, and we want to aim for victories, even small victories, because we're stuck in such a hard position in what's happening on the ground in Palestine. Things are getting worse and worse, and people are getting discouraged. We need victories. So we need to plan for victories. We need to plan for campaigns that will bring us more victories, and we need to publicize the victories that you already have. And our experience in the last 4 years in this work in Palestine is that victories are fast, faster than we can imagine. Sometimes, if you just do something which is more leverage pulling, you can get the victory and you can get it faster than you imagine. And these are all logos of companies that folded in or announced that they will divest from the occupation. And each one of these campaigns was fast. It was clever. I will tell you more about them in a few minutes. But it also got a lot of publicity in Israel. And one of the main goals of the BDS movement is to put pressure from the outside on the Israeli public opinion. I'm working within the Israeli public opinion, and believe me, they need a lot of pressure. Okay? So please. This is the website. The website, of course, doesn't look like that. This is the advanced search page. This is for you activists, okay? So don't stand around reading all the text. You know the text. Go for the advanced search. You can look for companies here that are located in the US, that means centered in the US. You can look for companies that are present in the US, meaning having actual local economic presence, doing their work here. You can look for companies associated with specific settlement if you're doing solidarity work with some community. You can look for big settlements. You can do the investment work, so look for a specific stock exchange. Thank you, stock exchange. All these things. This is just the beginning. Another thing you can do, there is a contact us, whoprofits@yahoo.com. Write to us. We also serve as an information center, as information support center for campaigns all around the world. Whatever question you have about things happening in Israel, Palestine, in the occupation, we can try and connect you with whoever can answer this question. That's our goal. So this is what happens when you push Presence USA. You get a long list of big companies. You can also try and just get public companies if you're interested in investor activism, for example. Usually some of these things are not fully updated. We are a grassroots effort. We have limited staff. We don't get to everything. Okay, what to do with such a long list? You know, you can read it for hours and hours and hours, and then where do you get from there? And then if you start clicking on things, you get all these interesting stuff that you never knew before. For example, Pillsbury, General Mills. They have a factory in a settlement. Did you know that? No. This is sorry. Here's another interesting fact. It is more interesting, I think, if you're coming from the side of activists on the ground that see this concrete wall that we are like fantasizing about things to do to these concrete walls. So the concrete walls, the slabs themselves, are provided by a company called Eckerstein. They are the ones that produce these slabs. And they have 2 factories in the US, one in Arizona, one in Los Angeles. And you know, they provide paving stones for local municipalities. So if you live in some place in Southern California and you walk on these paving stones and you think, oh, this is the wall. Great. So what else can you find out from the website that might not be very useful for you? If you're interested in investor activism, investment funds, Shamrock, which is a fund that is owned by the Disney family. They own several occupation-related businesses, very, very important ones. They have some stock in the Ahava, you know, Ahava, the Ahava campaign, called Pink, Tiva Naot, and Orad. Orad are supplying security apparatus for the wall. So they are heavily invested in very deeply occupation-related business. Franchises of big American chains that have presence in settlements. Now I'm talking about settlements because in Europe, unlike in the US, for some reason, settlements are not acceptable. You know, they really know, you know, following on Nadia's talk from the morning, that this is contrary to international law and this is unacceptable, even if you don't know anything about Palestine. So they have franchises in settlement, in the occupation, Remax, I don't know if you know them, but they sell housing to settlers, and in some of their franchises, they don't sell to Palestinians. They are very much like racist, bad, yes? But let's look at good targets. I'm just giving you all these interesting things you can find on the web. Let's look for good targets. So usually when looking for targets, the usual acronym is SMART targets. I think it stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Okay, SMART. But I want to add to that. I was looking for a good acronym, you know, because they also need to be strategic, actually. So I was thinking of something that will go with leverage. So let's think about targets where we can get victories fast because of the tools that we have. So also assessing the leverage we have specifically as a BDS movement. Another thing was accountability. It's very useful to choose a target that actually clarifies the chain of accountability and explains to people's minds where is the money going from and who is responsible, and actually also lead them in the future to other accountability campaigns like cutting US aid to Israel. A third thing that I thought was important is education. Many times when you pick a good target, you can teach people a lot more about what's going on in the occupation or in Palestine or what is Zionism, much better than talking and giving them a very abstract talk. And the fourth thing I thought about was movement building. If there are these global campaigns going on, people all around the world are focused on a target, try and think if you can plug into that. Because we want to build this global movement, and we want to be able to work in a more coordinated manner in order to produce that leverage. Maybe your little contribution to some big campaign will bring the victory somewhere else, and we need that victory. So that's movement building, and it didn't come up to a good acronym, LAEM, so I flipped it and we got meal. And I hope everybody is hungry, because then you can remember it. Okay, so this is a good target. I will just flip through some good examples and then stay with two big good ones that I really want to push. Okay, so these are not the ones that I really want to push, I'm just trying, maybe somebody will like them. Procter & Gamble, big company. Involvement in the occupation, very small. That's leverage. Why is it leverage? Because they don't want to be associated with the occupation. They don't have much to lose. Even if there is such a little tiny little push and they feel like, oh, when we were associated with war crimes and this is bad policy, and it will be easy for them to divest because the involvement is small. It will be just a first victory, but we need victories. So their involvement is very small. They are buying something like 11% of the material they use in their diapers and sanitary pads from a producer in the West Bank, which is a settlement industry, blah, blah, very bad. For the settlement industry, this is their biggest client. So if Procter & Gamble stops buying from them, and they can buy from many others, they will shut down. We like that. The message that, the message that this will give, it's not a message about, you know, end of Zionism, changing the configuration of Palestinism. No, it's not in line with all our politics. The message will be, okay, you chose to set up your factory in a settlement, you will not be able to sell abroad. We're already getting this message from other campaigns, so it's good to complete that message. It's a tiny little message, okay? But we need victories. Another good target, which I think is mostly educational. I don't think we can get a good victory here, but the educational value is great. This is a company that has a lot of business in the US. They own refineries, they sell oil, They own a chain of FINA gas stations and 7-Eleven stores in some states, not in all states, so this is very localized. You'll have to do the research over here, or I can help. But this company is responsible for the supply of gas to Gaza. And they are the ones that sit on the faucet and close the faucet when the Israeli government tells them to shut down the flow of gas to Gaza. So I don't know, somebody needs to make this connection. Sweden. Apparently the Swedes love soda, and they love homemade sodas. I don't know why, but 20% of the Swedish market have such machines at home. It's like every 5th Swedes have home carbonating machines, and they own the patent for it. So we actually approached them and we sent them this report that proves that all of these machines, the critical part of them, are made in a settlement in Mishor Edomim, in Ma'ale Edomim, in the West Bank. And they were outraged, and so they wrote all these letters to the company, and the company immediately didn't want to lose this market, and they said, no, 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 it's not true. We're actually making it in China, and we could prove them wrong. So that shows us another thing, that the information service should come from within, like, you know, the Israelis on the ground that can ask the questions in Hebrew and travel around and take pictures. Use us. But the flow of information shouldn't stop. When you have a campaign against a company, you need information support all the time. You need to be updated. You need to actually confront the company's announcement with information of your own. And many of the small groups around don't have resources to do that. They don't have the... So use us. Use us for that. We can try and just tell, no, they're wrong, and we can prove it. And we can send you the documents to prove it, and the pictures to prove it, so you can continue.
I didn't understand. Did they move the factory?
No, no, no. They just had some announcements. You know, that's how they deal with that. So now, one of their announcements is to the Israeli press, which is another way to confront them, you know, with conflicting announcements to the European press. And to the Israeli, you immediately tip the Israeli reporter, did you hear? SodaStream said that they moved the factory and they don't want to produce in a settlement anymore. So they call it, did you do that? No, no, of course not. We'll never do that. So then they get into a Africa Israel, by the way, if you heard about that company, was in exactly the same situation just
so they were telling two different stories.
Yeah. So their statement to the Israeli press just 3 days ago was that it depends on, if there is more political pressure, they might have to move their factory out of Mishor. In other words, they are inviting you people. They are telling you people they need more pressure. Okay, we'll have Q&A in the end, okay? Just hold your questions, and because I want to show you so many things, and I don't want to, I mean, I have so many stories about all this. Just last 2 little things, and then the 2 big stories. I'll maybe skip this. I'll skip the 2 little things. I'll tell you one thing which is happy, which is Israel is not South Africa. The Israeli economy is very centralized. It's very small. It is actually controlled by a small number of groups that are family groups. I mean, we're asking the question, who profits, who profits? Okay, here they are. We have the answer. So if we just influence the interests of these lovely men and women, we can change a lot because there are economic interests. And that can change things on the ground very quickly. It will not change the policy of the Israeli government and so on, but it will help change it eventually because there are a lot of economic interests on the ground. They are making big bucks. So it's possible, that's what I'm saying. It's small, it's centralized, and it's highly sensitive to the international global markets. They are very exposed, all of them. We already got this one. Where is it? You can put an X here.
Oh, put an X on it. Get a dry erase marker.
Okay, one down. Okay, 2 major stories that I really want to focus on. Veolia. The Veolia campaign is the oldest campaign in Europe. It's very successful. It had many little successes along the way. I think it is coming towards its big victory. I hope so. I feel that. I want the Americans in on it. I want you to do something about Veolia. Veolia has a lot of business in the US. They own water services to local municipalities. They also supply public transportation around many, many places around here. Buses, all the super shuttles to the airport are owned by Veolia. And they also have environmental services, in other words, waste disposal. In campuses, local municipalities, go to their websites. They're all there listed. see what's around you. Why do I want you to plug into this campaign? This campaign started in 2006 because Veolia were hired to operate a light rail project from Jerusalem to settlements around it, connecting all this settlement infrastructure and consolidating it and helping this area become more entrenched. They also operate bus lines in the occupied territories. This is one of these bus lines going through Road 443, which is partially an apartheid road for Israelis only. This is one of these buses. You can see it's on 443, okay? What it means is that these buses service the settlements, and they don't have stops for Palestinians along the way. These roads are not, in some parts, not accessible to Palestinians. The settlements definitely are not. They go into Israel, which is not. In other words, these are segregated buses, okay? Which is an interesting angle to think of. The same company that provides the super shuttles or provides bus services in your city is also operating segregated buses in the occupied West Bank. We can appeal to a wider, I think, group of people for that. Do you want that company in your community? The third involvement in the occupation is operating a landfill in the occupied Jordan Valley, again, utilizing occupied Palestinian resources for settlement activity. So this is also environmental. What is exciting about Veolia, that we've managed, we as a movement, we've managed to build a network of campaigns all around the world, around Veolia. And I had to write it down because it's hard for me to remember. Activists in France have sued the company, saying that the contract was illegal and has to be declared null and void. They're still in court. That was already 3 years ago. Veolia has lost the contract for the Stockholm Metro in Stockholm, which was a few billion euro worth. They operated that metro for 10 years. They lost the contract for Melbourne Light Rail Transit operation, for the operation of the Bordeaux Urban Network in France, for Galway Underground in Scotland. Several cities have declared themselves Veolia free, including Dublin, several cities in the Gulf, Oslo, and several bureaus are in London. And some other activists in London are still working on that to get to the higher municipality of London. This is an opportunity. This company targets local government and municipalities, so they can allow us to work in the area of our little town or our city and to declare our city Veolia free, even if we don't have any Veolia contracts, okay? Or when the contract does come. Now, why am I saying that we should do that now? They've already announced that they are pulling out of the light rail project and they sold their shares in it. This is that. The second thing is they announced that they will pull out of the landfill in the Jordan Valley. They haven't done that yet, but they announced they will, because they already lost something like $7 billion in contracts around the world. And this is not worth it for them. They haven't pulled out of the buses yet or announced that they would. We can use that because they're still using those buses. But they will, I think, because they are pulling out. Now, when the entire world goes to bus parties to celebrate the divestment of Veolia and the big success of the movement, you want to be on it. You want to be on that bus.